This is the story of my grandfather, Bob Kwan. Since the beginning, Bob has always been there for me, being a loving and caring grandfather ever since I was born. However, the journey throughout his childhood and as an immigrant coming to the United States for Bob wasn't as easy as it seemed. Bob was born in the southernmost part of China in a province called Guangzhou on October 5th, 1938, during the beginning of World War II. Guangzhou sits on China's southern coast and is one of the most populated provinces all throughout China. Bob lived in a small house with his father, mother, and three older brothers, more inland from the coast. It wasn't an easy living lifestyle for the Kwan family, as they relied on a small mini mart his father owned for most of their family's income. This didn't affect Bob, however, from growing up as a young boy. Bob formed a very close relationship between himself and his brothers. He looked up to his brothers as role models and wanted to be just like them when he grew older. Every day, Bob and his two brothers would help his mother out around the house. They would help wash clothes, and they would help feed the chickens outside of their house. During the week, when Bob's two older brothers went to school called Pao Ching Christian High, Bob stayed home with his mother, and his mother would tell him stories of when she was young, and he would help his mother cook dinner for the rest of the family. Bob's favorite dinner that his mother and he made was ma tofu, a very popular Chinese dish at the time. When Bob grew older, he became more and more independent. He had a hobby he really enjoyed, which was looking and fixing cars. He would always help his father if he needed help with his car, and he also collected toy cars for fun. Bob soon began to go to middle school, the same middle school that his three older brothers went to. He made many friends throughout school and made one very close friend named Sonny. Sonny was in his sixth grade English class, where Bob learned how to speak English. Schools required teachers to teach Chinese students English because it was required by British rule. After school, Bob and Sonny would often go bowling or play basketball outside of Sonny's house. However, it wasn't all fun and games for Bob and his family, because a lot was going on throughout China at the time when Bob was going to middle school. Communism rule was spreading throughout all the different provinces, and the government was taking over, and the United States and China exchanged some affairs. Not only was the Communist Party taking control, but the world was in the beginnings of a Second World War, and this was not a good sign for Chinese citizens. The war was coming up, and Bob's mother wanted to escape the war and all the dangers of being near the war. Bob and his family made the choice and escaped to Hong Kong, escaping communist rule and the dangers of World War II. However, one person didn't make the trip with Bob, and that was Sonny, his best friend. Bob never got the real chance to say goodbye to Sonny, but Bob always remembers Sonny and all the fun memories they had shared together. Bob's father had bought a small apartment in the back of the streets in the city of Hong Kong. Life was completely different there compared to life back in Bob's old rural village. He saw more people constantly walking around and heard the distant sound of voices as he went to sleep coming from the city. It took a long time for Bob and his family to get adjusted to the new city because it was so different from their lives back home. Bob's three older brothers all went out to find work as they wanted to provide for the family. The two eldest brothers, Tao and Eric, worked together at a local shoe repair shop. In addition, Alan, the third eldest brother, helped Bob's dad at his mini mart in the city. Bob's mother looked for a new high school to enroll Bob into in Hong Kong. Bob began to start school at Pew Ching Christian High, a local high school near their apartment. Bob took the school bus to school every day and also got a job that he worked at after school. He and a couple of his classmates all went to and were hired at a Chinese printing press, where they would push in Chinese characters into small page templates. They also stamped many papers and sheets. Things were going well for Bob. He enjoyed his new school and gained new interests such as math and science. He often played poker with some of his classmates and teachers and learned how to play mahjong from the local city people. He continued to work at the Chinese printing press every day after school. However, things began to slip for the Kwan family. All three brothers had moved out of the small apartment and began to live on their own. Bob's father still owned and worked at his mini mart in the streets of Hong Kong, trying to help and provide for his wife and Bob back home. Bob's father was losing his business and looking in every direction for him and his family. Bob's father made arrangements and decided to go to the United States and purchase a home in Los Angeles. Bob's father took a plane out to the United States and set up shop on San Pedro Street in central downtown LA. Bob's father continued working there for 10 years, sending back money that he made to China to Bob and his mother. Back home in China, Bob did well in school, specifically in math, and took care of his mother. After school and work, Bob would come home to tend to his mother and help make dinner and run the household. He and his mother received word from his dad that it was a good time to come to the United States and meet up with him. Bob's father had been working in the United States for over 10 years now, and he finally gave word back to them and his mother that it was a good time to come to the United States. Bob and his mother took a boat for 30 whole days from the ports of Guangzhou to the west coast of California. Bob met his father there, and his father purchased a $20,000 house for them all to live right behind their mini mart. Bob really enjoyed America and found it difficult to communicate with other Americans, though. However, his education back home in middle school helped Bob learn quickly. Bob graduated and went to California State University in Los Angeles and finished with a degree in engineering. He quickly adapted to the environment, as many of his coworkers at Hughes Aircraft taught him English. Bob Kwan has taught me a lot more than being just an amazing grandfather, but he has taught me many valuable lessons through his story coming to the United States.